Welcome to American Education FM, everybody. I'm Dr. Sean Brooks. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. I'll start here. 4 years ago, this show was deleted. It was deleted by Biden's incoming administration on Inauguration Day. I know that I wasn't the only one. Lots of people had their shows deleted, publications deleted, etc., as did I. The Storm Series books were being deleted almost immediately after Inauguration Day off of Amazon. Again, next to no warning. And, of course, no course correction was allowed to take place. It was just a simple email. Your book's been deleted. Have a nice day. If you want to appeal, you can certainly try, but we don't care what you think, and just deal with it. And, of course, that ended up happening. Now, fortunately, again, if you're unaware or you are interested in those, they are all free. They are available again on my website in PDF form. And to my knowledge, there might be 4 volumes still available in paperback and or Kindle on Amazon. But either way, they're all free on PDF. If you're interested in saving those or reading those or having those for your archives, certainly regarding everything that transpired in the year of 2020, on a day in and day out basis, all the way through the fake inauguration of 2021, right up until Easter of 2021. With all of that said, again, I'm not saying any of that to play the victim. That's not it. I'm simply saying it because censorship continues to be one of the biggest enemies that we face moving forward here. And as we know, that is largely comprised of motivation, certainly from the Jewish lobby and communists and Marxists. These are the ones, again, who are interested in censorship on all forms, on all platforms, no matter what, which should tell you that that is your enemy. And that's exactly, again, where we have to put our focus here. So, with that aside very briefly, let me mention this because I've sort of brought this up in the past, and I think this is a good reminder and certainly a good time for it given the inauguration here. The whole business of crime that has occurred from past administrations, from decades and decades, and of course, certainly since probably the founding of our country, and certainly 1861, and the years after 1871, and then, of course, 1913, of all of these being monumental years for our country for a variety of reasons, certainly from a financial and corporate standpoint. There have been so many crimes and so many individuals engaging in so much crime that it would be next to impossible to arrest all of them and hold them all accountable. There's just too much crime. It's almost like when you see a mob of blacks essentially run into a Kay Jewelers all at once and do their typical smash and grab, which we've seen on video, of course, over endless years. But instead of all of that being done on camera, with them again wearing masks and largely unidentifiable, and then running away, very rarely are those individuals caught also. Why? Well, because there's a lot of them. And they're stealing a great deal, and it's hard to identify them, and a number of other things. When it comes to politicians, and it comes to illegality in Washington, these people have faces. We can see them. We know what they've done. We have to hold these people accountable, and someone has to hold these people accountable, even if it's a few high-profile individuals, where essentially, again, you're pulling the bricks from the Jenga tower, just you're pulling them way down low. You're not even going for the middle or even messing around with the top layers. You're just yanking it right out from the middle. And if you pull enough from the bottom, eventually, deterrence, as you've heard me bring up before, is a beautiful method, again, to either slow crime or stop it dead in its tracks. But we have been overburdened by crime and deception for far too long. And something has to change here. There's a great deal, clearly, that is on the platter, so to speak, in the menu regarding Donald Trump and the work that he has to do. But the one thing that has to exist is positive propaganda. And the best form of propaganda, as we know, is the truth. Just show the people the truth. Tell them the truth. Even that will wake up and enrage the most dead asleep human beings on the face of the planet. But it still has to happen. And it's not that we need to, again, sit around and wait for individuals in governmental positions or politicians or whoever. Basically tell us what's really going on. We already know what's going on. But there's been so much deception and so much crime for such a long time that catching all of these individuals and holding all of these individuals accountable is a monumental task in itself. Not to mention, of course, the hidden agendas that are consistently going on behind the scenes and even in front of our faces regarding the technocratic state, the wireless body area network, surveillance, tracking, you name it. There's a lot there. And there's no way, of course, that Donald Trump himself can handle all of this on his own. That would be impossible. Again, I don't think that he's an all-seeing individual or an all-knowing individual. There are things that he's probably completely unaware of. But we also know, and I don't think there's any doubting this, that there are very good people who do not have names, who we do not see, that are working with him and have worked with him for a very long time about who our enemies are, what they are really doing, what they are up to. And at the very least, their motives and their plans need to be slowed down, if not downright halted. But this is something, again, that we have to see, because we know who the enemy is. If some individuals, again, who are of well-known status or even holding on to specified positions within government that anybody can see, if these individuals, again, are held accountable and their cards are pulled and the good guys get a hold of them, even without any help from their blackmailers, they just flat out go after them because they have broken the law, regardless of what laws they are, whether they be murder, child trafficking, pedophilia, rape, you name it. Money laundering, I mean, you can pick one. But these individuals have got to go, and we have to see this, even while they are holding office. This has to be, again, something that we all see, because deterrence is huge in all of this. Again, given the decades of crime that have occurred, yes, these people are psychopaths, and they would actually believe that just because one of their friends were arrested or tried and then executed for treason or even imprisoned for the rest of their lives without the possibility of a pardon of any kind, that these individuals, again, would say to themselves, at least we would like to think, that they would say to themselves, okay, I'm going to give up the life of crime. I'm going to resign from office. I'm just going to go live someplace quietly, not have any influence with anybody, and that'll be the end of it. We would like that to also happen. But these people will dig in like ticks. Again, the people who scream the loudest are the ones who have the most to hide. And on top of that, I should say, the individuals who cannot answer basic questions are the ones who are completely controlled by the enemy. Again, let me give you just one quick example. Frankie Stocks is a guy who works for the Stu Peters Network, and I believe he's associated with the National File. He was walking around the halls of Congress not that long ago, a couple of days maybe, and he's asking these congressmen whether or not they care more about the American people or Israel. And they couldn't answer the question. The vast majority of the individuals just walked away without saying anything. Again, they heard what he was saying. They were practically face to face, making eye contact, even acknowledging one another's presence. And then again, Frankie Stocks would just say, I have a question to ask you. And then they'd say, go for it. And he would ask, and then they would just walk away. And then some of them, of course, would say, well, Israel's our greatest ally and XYZ, and I also care about the American people and whatever else. The fact that these individuals, again, are walking away from that question should show everybody, again, very, very plainly and very simply, that they're owned. That these individuals are owned, blackmailed, and that occupation of the Jewish lobby in our country is a huge problem and continues to be. There have to be things, again, that we see that changes this. Now, if that's, again, highlighting the crimes and illegality of Israel, Netanyahu, and endless other individuals associated with all of that, sure, absolutely. That has to be something that happens. And I think, again, politicians eating crow and humble pie in front of their constituents is a good thing. This is something, again, that has to happen. But we're also talking, again, about secret societies and the infiltration of them within our government since the beginning of time. And again, how these particular pillars have to be brought down. If we kick the can of everything that I just mentioned to, again, a future administration or someone else down the line, we're not fixing the problem. Because censorship is sort of, again, that albatross that just hangs over all of it, as endless individuals, including those who claim to represent us, engage in censorship to, again, silence the truth. All the more reason, I think, again, for independent media and individuals, again, to continue to tell the truth, write about the truth, speak about the truth, and not quit doing any of that. This has to be our mission going forward. This has to be the goal going forward. Again, deterrence is a beautiful thing, but there has to be some deterrence regarding the Jewish question and the Jewish lobby in our government and in our country. Again, we can all sit around and create a huge list of all of the things that we would love to see happen in the future. I have, a massive list myself. There are a number of things that I would love to see. No more foreign control over the land in our own country. That would be a beautiful thing. I would love to see the large banks cease to exist, go back to small state banks, rework our currency. I'm fine with the dollar bill, just have it backed by gold and silver instead of course, these cryptocurrencies that are completely ridiculous that the vast majority of America has no idea what the hell they even are, which means they exist not for them, but for a certain select elite, so to speak. Again, me personally, I want a complete elimination of any group, person, conglomerate, NGO, etc. that claims to be helping America or wants to help America when clearly they are not. When clearly their goal is to make money on America's destruction. I want them gone, all of them. There's no reason why the Tavistock Institute has to exist. That's just one. There are thousands of them. But they have to cease to exist. Throughout this episode, of course, I'm going to talk a little bit about what I would like to see regarding the education system. And of course, healthcare, which as we know in our country is basically sick care. And of course, those two subjects, education and healthcare, so to speak, that comprises 2/3 of this show on an episode in, episode out basis. But these have to change. And again, as I've said before, and you know this, the best way to change it is to abolish it. And you abolish it by voting with your feet and walking away from these institutions and these wavelengths of thought. They can't be reformed necessarily. At least I don't think that they can be reformed. The healthcare business, so to speak, and it's possible even medical schools could be reformed. But again, as I've said before, and I'm not saying it to be fatalistic or even black pill, it's just you're talking about not just changing the structures and the parameters of what allows it to exist and what people believe, but you're diving deeper into the psyche of the human being who believes things that just are not real. That's the hardest part to crack, basically. That's the toughest nut to crack, is getting people to understand that they've spent copious amounts of dollars on endless years of schooling to only come to the conclusion that everything that they were taught was a complete lie. That's a tough one to swallow for a great deal of people, but it doesn't matter. Again, you know this too, but it's been said by Leonardo da Vinci that there's 3 different kinds of people in the world. People who see, people who will never see, and people who will see when shown. All of the individuals, again, screaming about RFK being the head of HHS and what is he going to do, and I can't believe he's going to do this, and I can't believe he's going to do that, and oh no, we're not going to have COVID vaccines anymore, and everybody's going to die because there aren't COVID vaccines. Everybody knows with a brain that the exact opposite is true. This also, again, is something that we have to see. We have to see the complete removal of injection as a false form of preventative medicine. It is not. It prevents nothing. But we have to see this. This has to be something we see in our lifetime. Is this something we're going to see in the next 4 years? Not necessarily. But it may be some dominoes that we see get kicked over. And then, of course, we know exactly what happens with all of that, assuming that someone doesn't put a stick in between those dominoes and keep them from hitting the rest of the dominoes. We want all of them to fall. Again, I'm optimistic about all of this because the evidence is at face value. It exists. It's not even hard to find. And these dots don't need to be connected. They're right on top of each other. But these are just things, again, that we have to see. We have to advocate for all of this. Yes, people's lives are going to be in danger. Yes, they're always going to be in danger. People are so crazy in this world that if you tell them the truth about something that they have believed their whole lives that is in fact a lie, they will quite literally try to kill you over that. They will kill you to defend their point of view. As it's been said numerous times before, that's the Agent Smith syndrome from The Matrix, that the moment that an individual starts to wake up, they will quite literally fight hard to defend the lies that they have believed their entire life. And of course, as we also know, it's the devil who keeps them believing those lies, because they're easier to believe. The lie is always easy to believe, in particular when it's been perpetuated throughout society. So let me tell you what I'm going to do with this show going forward. I'm not going to quit with this particular show. It's not going to happen. I'm going to continue to see things as I see them. I'm going to call balls. I'm going to call strikes. I'm going to call people out. And I'm going to give credit where credit is due. Again, it's just how I see it. I'm doing my best to be as objective as humanly possible. I know that the enemies are everywhere. I don't like how some people go all in on certain subjects and only halfway on others. They look at some evidence, not all evidence. And this, of course, is something that bothers me, but we have spies among us. They are everywhere. And these individuals, again, these, coattail grabbers like the Charlie Kirks of the world and the TPUSAs of the world and the Daily Wires and all these other spy agencies. In my opinion, that's exactly what they are. They're masquerading as conservative entities when clearly they're all owned by the same people. The people behind those shows and those productions are there for the same reason that a CNN is there, for the exact same reason that an ABC or CBS is there. They're there to distract individuals from what's really going on. So I don't think that the war ends. I think that the war is in full gear right now. And there are crazy people out there, again, who are willing to kill others to just defend their own false belief on something. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's the way that it is. But just to summarize, again, just kind of very quickly here, we have to see things take place that we have never seen before. We've already seen plenty that we've never seen before. And of course, the veil is lifted on endless subjects and endless events throughout history. And this has been going on now, again, for a very long time. Certainly over the last 8+ years. But it's also a matter, I think, of focusing in on what we can control and what we cannot. We can control what we say about other people and other groups that we deem to be the enemy. Individuals who are refusing to learn, individuals, again, who are refusing to apply the scientific method in multiple levels of inquiry, regardless of the subject that they're speaking about or looking into. But at the same time, we have to arrive at a rather objective conclusion also, I think, which is that we can't change everything the way that we really want to see it. We can't snap our fingers and make all the bad people just cease to exist. We can't clap our hands and click our heels and watch all of the technocratic companies and all of the conferences and the white papers and all of the evidence of illegality and criminality and depopulation and dysgenics and all of it. We can't do all of that and just expect all of that to just disappear, because it isn't going to happen. So in order for, I think, people to actually have the world that they really want, which I would hope would be a far more simple world, one that is not materialistic, superficial, where individuals go back to reading books, praying, working hard, caring about their families. The list is endless. That individuals, you, me, whomever, that we just do that the best that we can on a day in and day out basis, while at the exact same time not being afraid to get on a soapbox or scream from the mountaintops who the enemy is. I would certainly hope that the last 4 years have taught those of us who, at least I would like to think, are morally sound people, that we can't have any fear of anything going forward. We have to call out the enemy. And yeah, if that means name call, then we name call. Because if that gets their attention and it shows them that we have nothing to lose and nothing to fear, then so be it. But we can also just hit them with the truth and just be immovable when it comes to the truth. And I know that it's been said even by Mark Twain and a number of other individuals that it doesn't matter how much you tell the truth to an idiot, it's not going to change their mind no matter what. Well, that's not really up to us. We still have a responsibility to do that for our own well-being, the well-being of the people around us, I think, and certainly the state of our country. So we know who the enemies are. We just have to keep exposing them. We have to keep exposing the people who are in league with our enemies, and then learn about the process on holding them accountable in any way that we possibly can. I've brought up numerous strategies on this show, of course, on how to do that. I'll continue to do that, and we'll just keep moving forward. But again, I'm an optimistic person, and I do support Donald Trump 100%. I want good things to happen. I want good policy. I want the removal of laws. I want laws, again, to be abolished. There are too many laws in this country, just like the crime. Too many laws, too much crime. That's always moving things in a bad direction. Again, take the TikTok ban that just happened, where again, hopefully and allegedly for the people who are on TikTok, I certainly am not, never have been, but I move their videos around from time to time, of course, certainly in the war videos. Is the whole reason, of course, that was completely eliminated was because both sides of Congress could agree on something that was censorship. Now, why is it, again, that both parties in Congress, both proverbial different sides of the aisle, even though they are not, could all agree on one thing? Well, it's because Israel controls both of them, and they want censorship. They're being exposed. The Jewish lobby is being exposed on a day in and day out basis on TikTok and all platforms, and the more that happens, the more those platforms panic. Not so with Gab. Again, if you're going to be on any social media platform, Gab is certainly a good one. X is a decent one to just watch particular things from time to time, but all the others, in my humble opinion, are pretty much useless. Of course, BitChute's a great video platform. Rumble's, not too bad. YouTube's pretty much a waste. There's some good things on there, of course, but it censors all of the time. And again, same thing with Telegram. Telegram's a pretty good way to communicate and figure out the truth and figure out what's going on, and these are good things. But we just have to keep moving this information around. The learning doesn't stop. But the only thing, again, that's going to slow our enemy or stop it is just flat-out deterrence. Because of the overabundance of deception and crime that has taken place, as I said earlier, for our entire lives, something has to stem this tide. And I'm certainly going to pray for clarity on a number of things, and I'm certainly going to pray for some longevity here, as well as, of course, peace and a number of other fantastic things that need to take place. But we have got to pray for accountability and public accountability. We know, again, how deep these rabbit holes go, and we know the spider web of connections that exist, and they're probably far worse than we can even imagine. But we have to see something that we've never seen before in the realm of accountability. It has to happen. So with that aside, let me say this. I don't know when you started listening to this show. I don't know what it was that brought you to this show to listen, certainly to listen to my voice. And I'll be completely blunt with you also, this was not something that I even really wanted to do. As you've heard me say, certainly a long time ago, it was the summer of 2020, and this is when the podcast thing sort of entered my mind, and I kept putting it off. And I just thought, how many more books can I write about what's really going on in the field of education and government deception and the connections between all of it? And then I thought, if I start a podcast, what would make me any different than anybody else? Because it seems like everybody and their dead grandmother has a podcast. But then I started thinking, well, wait a minute. There's an avenue here that has not been discussed. Of course, it has a great deal to do with the brainwashing indoctrination system that people call American education. And so that was the avenue, because I thought, I'm looking on all these different podcasting platforms, and I'm not seeing a show that's covering that subject. And if they were, or they were attempting to, they were terrible at it. I thought, well, maybe this is the avenue then. So again, four years later, whatever it is, four years and 4 months later, I'm still here and I'm still doing this because I view it as being very, very important. So I certainly want to thank everybody for listening. And like I said, I don't know what it is that necessarily led you to find this show. I know it's been a different reason probably for everybody, but I hope that you've heard something that either justifies your current belief system and your current knowledge base. Again, whether it's something that I've said or something that I've played or a question I've asked or whatever it is. And that maybe it's hardened your resolve in a particular area or an avenue of your life. Perfect. I think that's the point. If something, that's been brought up here has changed their mind for the better, changed someone's mind for the better, or again, it's caused them to re-examine their current circumstances or even advocate for their children in a way that maybe didn't exist previously, then perfect. Again, I think that's also the point too, is to sort of stem the cycle of unknowing and stop that and reverse course and find a better way. So I love the emails. Thank you for the emails. Keep them coming. I've read all of them. I thoroughly enjoy them. And a number of individuals, again, have told me how they found the show and when they started listening. And that's a humbling experience. And I thoroughly enjoy that. And I also love, again, hearing of individuals who have openly said that, they've listened to this show and they decided to start homeschooling their children as a result, that the walls were closing in around where they were living, whether it be government control or medical tyranny or whatever it is, brainwashing, etc. And then they just say, we're not doing this anymore. On one hand, I'm sending my children in this direction, and on the other, I'm listening to this guy on this podcast, and he's saying these things and how we can get out of this mess. So the people, again, who have listened to what I've said and advocated for and have actually applied it, that'll slow anybody down, I think. It certainly slows me down, and in a good way, and makes me reflect on what this show has done for people, which I hope is a very good thing. So that's how I conducted myself as an educator when I taught school. That's how, I try to conduct myself as a person. But, it's It's a humbling experience. And so again, thank you for listening. I really do appreciate it, and I plan on continuing to do this as best I can. Of course, the Substack is still up as well, americanclassroom.substack.com. That's not going away either. I actually prefer writing Substack articles as opposed to writing books. The book writing is a monumental task. For those out there who have done it before, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm certain that if you haven't done it before, you can imagine. You have to immerse yourself in a subject and a line of research and inquiry that is taxing, and it's timely, of course. You would hope that it's timely, but it's time-consuming as well. So Substack gives me the ability to kind of do a little bit of everything at once, which is kind of neat. So again, you can subscribe for free over there. All the articles are free. Everything's free. Of course, I'll take a donation anytime, but they're all greatly appreciated. But all the content is free. The show will continue to be free as well. And hopefully there's no censorship issues going forward, and hopefully those platforms continue to remain. With that said, more specifically, let me mention this. The last Substack article I wrote and put together, I threw up there on Saturday, and it is titled Not a King, The Unclassified FBI Files and the Truth About Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., quote unquote, which of course is not his real name. I highly recommend giving that a read and moving that around and sharing that with people if you're interested in waking them up on the issue. And of course, his birthday was not the fourth Monday of the month. It's just apparently when his birthday is apparently celebrated. But again, one would have to ask why. The man was a plagiarist. He was a borderline rapist, certainly a womanizer. He would pay prostitutes. He was a sexual deviant at the very least. He was a Marxist, a communist, and he was a traitor. That's it. It's that simple. And again, as someone who has a PhD and has written books before, I can tell you again, the degrees are useless and they don't matter. But the reason that I undertook those particular endeavors was because I was interested in honesty. I was interested in telling the truth. I was interested in, again, my voice being expressed by using the scientific method and, again, engaging in a certain level of inquiry regarding certain institutions. Of course, in my case, it was the education system and violence within. But even so, for someone like him to claim that he had a PhD when, in fact, almost all of it was plagiarized is remarkably insulting to those of us who have actually done it ethically and morally. Same thing with writing books. His books were plagiarized also. Greatly so, as a matter of fact, without proper citation, and the words weren't even his. So, again, what are you left with then? You're left with a government Jewish communist tool that people apparently celebrate and hold up in high esteem. Why? Because he gave a speech once, which wasn't even his speech? This is the overabundance of deception that has got to stop. People have to stop celebrating these false historic idols. All of it is a lie. So again, there's plenty of information in the Substack regarding Michael King, his real name. A nice 20-some-odd minute video embedded within also, which I highly recommend you give a watch to. And then, of course, a downloadable PDF flyer from the National Alliance, which would be a neat little flyer to toss around, certainly within a public school, and educate people about who he really was. Again, every Black History Month, quote-unquote, every February that comes around, in the local grocery store, in the Kroger's in the town where I lived, they actually set up a table. And they put all of these false idols who happen to be Black on this particular table. And all of it is just evil propaganda. Michelle Obama's book. Well, that's not his real name. Martin Luther King stuff. Rosa Parks. What a trendsetter. Please, give me a break. You're never going to see Ida B. Wells anywhere. You're never going to see Thomas Sowell's work anywhere. Walter Williams. You'll never, Frederick Douglass even. You'll never see these individuals. It won't exist. They just hand select those that they're familiar with on a first grade level. And then they just, again, ram it home and try to get everybody to just follow along. It's that kind of a wavelength of thought that has to be broken. And it's not even that it's our responsibility to break it, but we can certainly assist in the process, I think. In fact, in this shortened episode here, and this is, again, arguably one of the shortest episodes I've ever had, but I want to read a particular page from a book that is titled Archaic England. And this was put together by an individual by the name of Harold Bailey. I want to read a brief description of this first, and then I just want to read the first page from the first chapter, which is called The Great War Old Style, 1914 to 15. It says the following here in this particular post. It says there's a new article on conjuringthepast.com website, and as usual, it's too big for me to post here. They said, so this is a synopsis. It's part of the Dark Earth Chronicles series and discusses a surprising phenomenon that occurred at the beginning of the 20th century, whereby the official mainstream narrative with regard to British and European history underwent a sudden and profound inversion. It says, during this period, Harold Bailey wrote a book titled Archaic England, in which this remarkable situation is revealed and discussed. So let me read this for you here, sort of as a wrap-up. Again, this is chapter 1 of that book, titled The Great War Old Style, 1914 to 15. It says the following, quote, until August 1914, a sensible, law-abiding Englishman could pass through life and hardly notice the existence of the state beyond the post office and the policeman. He could live where he liked and as he liked. He had no official number or identity card. He could travel abroad or leave his country forever without a passport or any sort of official permission. He could exchange his money for any other currency without restriction or limit. He could buy goods from any country in the world on the same terms as he bought goods at home. For that matter, a foreigner could spend his life in this country without permit and without informing the police. Unlike the countries of the European continent, the state did not require its citizens to perform military service. An Englishman could enlist if he chose, in the regular army, the navy, or the territorials. He could also ignore, if he chose, the demands of national defense. Substantial householders were occasionally called on for jury service. Otherwise, only those helped the state who wished to do so. The Englishmen paid taxes on a modest scale, nearly £200 million in 1913 to 1914, or rather less than 8% of the national income. The state intervened to prevent the citizen from eating adulterated food or contracting certain infectious diseases. It imposed safety rules in factories and prevented women and adult males in some industries from working excessive hours. The state saw to it that children received education up to the age of 13. Since the 1st of January 1909, it provided a meager pension for the needy over the age of 70. Since 1911, it helped to ensure certain classes of workers against sickness and unemployment. This tendency toward more state action was increasing. Expenditure on the social services had roughly doubled since the Liberals took office in 1905. Still, broadly speaking, the state acted only to help those who could not help themselves. It left the adult citizen alone. Unquote. Even back then, they saw the walls closing in, a little at a time. More government intervention, more government mandates, more government control, when previously, of course, it didn't exist. But the entire point of it is always supposed to be, of course, to help people who cannot help themselves. And then, of course, help them help themselves. We have to see a change here. We have to see a reversal. There have to be less laws in this country, less restriction, equally as much oversight from us over government, but it shouldn't be government with oversight over us. We still have the Constitution. Whether people believe in it anymore or not, it still exists. And again, defending it, I think, has to be our mission continuing to go forward here. So it's not that we can control everything, but we have a responsibility to practice what we preach and control what we can control. Because as it just said at the end of that first page, the fact of the matter is that we just want to be left alone. We want to be left alone to do what we want to do in a healthy way without any government intervention. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens here going forward in the future. Again, in summary, I'm optimistic, I'm cautious, I'm a little bit of everything, but I want us to succeed as a country, but I also want to see us get back to a traditional way of living that is far healthier and far more morally sound and Christ-like, I think, than certainly what we've seen here in recent years. The technocratic state is one of the things that bothers me greatly. It should bother a great deal of people, of course. Weaponization of technology, medicine, a number of things. All of this, again, has to stop. And again, people's lives are going to be in danger because they're bringing this up. And they're bringing this up at the national level, and then they're bringing it up at the state level and the local level. But the truth will defend itself. Always has, always will. And that's where I come out on all of this. So my hope is that you continue to listen to this. Again, feel free and share any information you want with me. I'll bring it up on the show, and we'll just continue to share what we know and our different takes on a number of different things, and we'll move forward from there. So I'll watch the inauguration. I'm going to watch a great deal of it, pay attention to it closely, see if there's certain communications taking place, and as we know, there's a lot of first day, second day, third day, first week mandates that we have and have been promised that we all want to see. Closed borders, deportations, you name it, and then arrests. This has to be something, again, that takes place. The arrest can take place first, and then you can tell people why the person has been arrested second. Because they already have the evidence on these people. I mean, you can't believe that they don't have the evidence on Adam Schiff already to arrest him right now. They have to. So he's just one of many examples. The Epstein client list. We'd love to see that, wouldn't we? And all of that, again, be disseminated. The Clintons disappearing forever. I mean, there are a number of things that we want to see here, but I know full well that our expectations, of course, are through the roof. We'll just see if those expectations are met. Maybe they will, maybe they won't be. But time will tell. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening again. Let's get after it here because the war continues, and I'll catch you on Wednesday. Peace. Thank you for listening to American Education FM. Make sure and check out AmericanEducationFM.com for more information. Take care and God bless.